Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to a Big Tuesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Mike McIntyre is going to jump on the program later on today, hit the Stanley Cup Final as well as the NHL offseason. And there's been plenty of NHL offseason stuff to talk about, despite the fact that there's usually a bit of a embargo on league news during the Cup Final. First, it was Dylan Larkin's trade request, the 3-team list he supplied yesterday that we talked about. And then today, this really started picking up steam right at the end of yesterday's show. But it sounds like, barring the NHLPA grieving it, that Mike Babcock is going to be the next coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Absolutely bananas. Our pal Matt Iwanyk from EST is going to join us. I just finished up the lock shop with Dustin Nielsen on Edmonton Sports Talk, and I can tell you that this was yet another nuke for those guys when it comes to people jumping on the station and the shows provided by the Oilers front office. They said that their numbers are on par with last year, where the team went to the Stanley Cup Final. They've been out since the first round between the Knobloch and the Cassidy, and now the Babcock stuff. It has just been it's been the gift that keeps on giving for our friends at Edmonton Sports Talk. But we'll find out what the reaction is from Oiler fans, how people are thinking about this move with Matt Iwanyk coming up. We're also going to talk some World Cup with Matt Iwanyk, because if you can believe it, we're 2 days away from kickoff for the tournament and 3 days away from throwing on your red on Friday and watching Canada take on Bosnia and Herzegovina in Canada's World Cup opener on Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Bombers practicing, getting ready for their home opener in 2 days at Princess Auto Stadium on Thursday night. Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports is going to pop by the program a little bit later on. And we will also have picks for Assiniboia Downs, as well as the latest on the Coolbet line. Speaking of Coolbet and the Canadian Football League, shout out to Connor Rabchak, who jumped on with me today for another episode of CFL 110. Hammer should be back next week, but had a great time. We did have a little technical difficulty, so if you're getting it on YouTube, just know that there's two parts. I'm not sure what the heck was going on, but the CTO was getting a haircut, so we didn't have the usual and the CTO's already said they fixed it. There is only one. So CFL 110 is live for you. And our CFL 110 parlay that we cooked up, which includes the Bombers to cover against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, is already up in the combo cards over at coolbet.com if you want to get on that. Of course, tonight is the crucial Game 4 in the Cup Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll hit that right off the bat, and much, much more coming up on today's show. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everybody listening on podcast. Thanks for making us a part of your day, and shout out to the crew that is with us live on YouTube today, as always, and a special thanks to everyone that joined us for CFL 110 this morning. Do want to thank all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet, our friends at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, the Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get those tickets at trihospitaldream.com. Manitoba Battery, powering the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year. Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Travel Manitoba, the Gold Eyes, ASD, Assiniboia Downs, they're back at it, 7:30 post time tonight. Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, and the great people over there. And of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get the show on the road. Remo, what's going on?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I did get a haircut this morning, so feeling good here.
Oh, wow, look at that. Fresh cut.
Fresh cut. Yeah, it's doing okay. So I was in the chair. Connor's messaging me that you guys had some issues. Thankfully, it's something I've encountered before. So told him how to fix that. And yeah, check out the video. And CFL 110's got its own podcast feed as well. So looking forward to week 2 where we got the full 4 games. Bit of a tease in week 1. It's a weird schedule this year because of the World Cup being in the Toronto Stadium and BC Lions Stadium.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way. But for regular podcast listeners, for WST, if you do want more on the Bombers and the Canadian Football League, make sure to just type in CFL 110 and subscribe to that. And as soon as there's a new episode, boom, it's in your inbox, ready to go. Phyllis loving Remis's haircut. You look all caps great, Remo.
Wow.
You do look good today. And even Derek Schmidt, Remis looking fancy. I mean, it's nice to debut a haircut right before a show and come in looking fresh. Actually looking forward to, speaking of that, we'll see how this weather goes tonight. We're going to be out at the Gold Eyes game having some fun with some friends and our pal Michael Grajewski. There is apparently some severe weather possibilities in southern Manitoba, more west. We'll see whether we get it tonight, but fingers crossed the game will go on. One game that we do know will go on tonight, Remo, is Game 4 of the Cup Final. But it's probably a good thing they had 2 days between the games on Saturday and Tuesday, because between the Dylan Larkin news and then yesterday's news about Mike Babcock, that game would have been hijacked by huge news in the league. But luckily, everyone had a chance to do that. It sounds like Mike Babcock is the choice of not only Edmonton Oilers, but this is player-driven. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, like the leadership group. According to Ryan Rishaug on TSN last night, the player leadership group has, quote, full-throated support to get Mike Babcock in. And wouldn't this be some sort of a redemption tour for both the coach and a group of players that have been so close but haven't been able to get the ultimate prize?
Yeah, and just on the Cup Final tonight, really no lineup changes are expecting, although some questions about Carolina's goaltending. There is no morning skate because it's a 5 p.m. local start. So Brind'Amour is going to talk around 4:15 p.m. after we're done. I do wonder if there is a goaltending change. But as for the NHL offseason, it reminds me, you mentioned the spike in Edmonton. When we had it our summer, we had Dubois, Drama, we had Trotz. It was so much fun. And the draft is a couple weeks away. So all the rampant speculation starting. Dylan Larkin, his no trade list being leaked, only wants a trade to, Vegas and Florida. What a shocker for that front runner, Dylan Larkin. And the Babcock news as well. And your ears kind of perk up when you hear Babcock, but then you hear, hey, the players want it. They really want to win. They want to show that last year, wasn't a step back, and they believe Mike Babcock is the guy who can help him do it, even if there's some criticism about his methods, over his last stops in Columbus, Toronto. So it's interesting how this is going to play out, but it sounds like he's the guy. I saw Bob Stauffer, who's very dialed in with the Oilers, saying yes, he's met with everyone, and that's what you have to do if it's a guy, who was removed before coaching a game with his last team. You have to make sure, hey, is this going to be okay with your top guys, and go from there. So interesting situation in Edmonton.
Yeah, we'll talk to Iwanyk about it coming up in a minute. There were people that said, oh, my God, they're hiring Babcock. McDavid's going to want out right now. I mean, it is somewhat shocking, but McDavid sounds like is fully on board with this and even sort of behind it. And this is the one thing, and I talked about this Dusty on the Lock Shop, like a very different situation for Mike Babcock than in his previous visits. He came in as the savior in Toronto with the record contract, and obviously we know how that all went. And then, he was out of the game for a while. Some of the things that he did over the course of his Leafs tenure kind of came to light, and it seemed like a lot of people soured on him. And it wasn't until a real desperate Columbus team went to Mike Babcock to give him an opportunity to sort of resuscitate his career, and he never even made it to Game 1 before having to resign in shame after some of the weird things that he's done. Like, I've kind of referred to him. There's an element of near borderline, like, sociopathic behavior by Mike Babcock in the past. He is as it was described by a former one of his players to Dusty. He just told me this on Lock Shop. A piece of bleep human was described by the player.
Really?
But an incredible X's and O's technician. And listen, what I think Mike Babcock has done consistently throughout his career, which has rubbed so many people, both players and others, the wrong way, is really abuse the power dynamic between coaches and players. He's done a lot of like mental warfare, which certainly when you talk to a number of guys that have played for him, they absolutely hate him for it. And, you know, there was the old story about Mitch Marner where he asked him to say who the guys that were the least hardest working guys and then aired him out to the team to do that. I mean, that's not really what you want in an organization, but that was the coach abusing the power because he had it all. This to me is really different, Remis, because let's face it, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have the power in the Oilers organization. This doesn't even get to first base if those guys aren't on board with it. And if they are behind it to give Mike Babcock this other chance, like if Babcock tries any of the things that have alienated so many of his teams before, I mean, I think he's out because it will be the players that really will be the reason why he gets this gig and will be the reason that it ends. But if he can come back and not be the person that he's been before, maybe in dealing with a lot of his players, but can have that expertise of X's and O's and the brilliance that even some guys that played for him that hated him give him credit for, maybe, just maybe, this can work. But it doesn't really matter who you get into that chair for the Edmonton Oilers. This team is going to go as far as 97 and 29 carry them. And it does seem like those guys are very much on board with this, to the point where they have contacted the PA, hoping that this can just be greenlit and they can move ahead with their new head coach.
Yeah, do they think the X's and O's area from Chris Knobloch was lacking? You know, Mike Babcock, as you said, master tactician, but in terms of the way he motivates players, maybe not something that you would do here in 2026. But the top guys seemingly on board. We'll see how this plays out. Yeah, you were saying, you know, they'll go as far as McDavid and Draisaitl will take them, but I mean, there's still some holes on that roster. I don't think management has helped them out with some of the moves they've made. You know, they're going with Tristan Jarry in goal, haven't really bolstered the blue line. You still have this Darnell Nurse making huge dollars, so I'm curious. Oh yeah, and they need help on wing as well. Are they going to be signing Alex Tuck? We'll have to see, you know, what the Oilers look like next, or at the start of next season here, as we're still winding down this current one. But very intriguing, as yes, McDavid entering he's got 2 years left on his contract, so this is year 1 of 2. And we'll see if he decides he's going to stick around there, or maybe he's going to demand a trade to Florida or Vegas too after this season has.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I'm just looking at Edmonton, and they have right now, according to Puckpedia, $14.5 million of cap space. That includes McDavid playing on his discount extension. That includes Draisaitl's $14 a year. The incredible bargain on Zach Hyman's deal. The new just signed. Trent Frederick, year 2 of 8 at just south of $4 million a year. Podkolzin's good. And then you got Janmark, Josh Szymanski, Isaac Howard, Connor Clattenburg, and Savoy signed for next year. UFAs, Adam Henry, Curtis Lazard, Jason Dickinson, Kasperi Kapanen, Jack Roslovic, Max Jones, and Colton Dock is an RFA. And then Connor Murphy is a UFA as well. They've only got the $14.5 million to spend. They do have 5 of their defensemen signed up for next year, although one of those is Darnell Nurse. I know there's been plenty of trade speculation about him. So where they go with that money, and are there guys that might have normally said, I'd love to play with McDavid and Draisaitl, that might not be as keen on coming with Mike Babcock as the guy? I guess we will find out. But we'll talk to Iwanyk about this when he joins us in the next segment. And then Maddie and I will get into a little bit of World Cup talk as well before kickoff coming up. What do you make of this game tonight, though, Reem? Like, the more I think about it, and again, these games in Vegas have basically been pick'ems. The Canes now are actually a slight favorite in this game tonight, which I found a little interesting considering the Vegas Golden Knights are at home. They're the team that's up 2-1. But it has been such a bizarre series that it's kind of hard to really pick a side on this one, but maybe it is time. If anything, this series, you could make an argument, is destined for 7. If that's the case, I think Carolina needs to get this one tonight. But if they do, I think they're very live to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought they had their odds really increased in their favor after the Braden McNabb injury, but he came back last game in the birdcage and played amazing. Had 2 assists. I mean, that was huge when he was out. A big effect on the penalty kill, and you saw them win in Game 2. And in Game 3, I thought Carolina came out of the gate, it was a pretty, sleepy first period. I thought they controlled the play, and, all of a sudden, Mitch Marner's got the natural hat trick. One of those, they put in their own net from Walker. He had the shot from distance. And then, Carolina's found, 10-minute stretch in Game 2 and 3 where they took it to Vegas. And they have to figure out, okay, how are they going to not get behind here? And I do wonder if they go to Bussey instead of Anderson. They're a team during the season that rotates goalies because, so they are fresh. And Anderson, hasn't looked great at times. One of those goals, the hurdle goal? Guy's all alone in front, in between defenders. I don't know how a goalie is going to stop that, but, maybe he could have had some of these. Did he get hurt from the interference call where he got bumped into him with the head? I'm very curious if Bussey goes in. He looked solid. And again, teams rotate goalies. They've ridden him every game in a row this year. And I do love how they had the day, normally you have the travel day off, but they had to put the day off on the series between his Game 3 and 4 in Vegas because it's Vegas, right? So I think this is destined for 7. I think they're just going to alternate until 7. So I'll roll with Carolina, but I think they still need a bit more from their top guys who haven't given to them. But they didn't get it last game, so I think you're due for Ehlers on the board in this one, and maybe you see Taylor Hall on the board again. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
Listen, I here's the thing, and I'm not sure how many people tuned into the NBA Finals last night, but Wemby and the Spurs got that big win at MSG to get back into the series and prevent going down 3-0. I think Carolina and the Spurs are in very similar situations going into their respective Game 4s on the road. If they lose these games, they're probably done. But if they can win Game 4, they regain home court or home ice. They've got 2 of the 3 of what essentially will be a best of 3 at home. And I think they become favorites if they win tonight. So this Game 4, absolutely crucial. And the big question will be, as you mentioned, do they get Bussey back in the net? Or was that just a reset day for Freddie Anderson and they decided that he is the guy moving forward, at least for tonight? We'll come up and see. Did you see any of that NBA game last night, Remo?
Yeah, I tuned in for the end there, and I just can't get over, what people are paying for this game. All the MSG fans. Then you had the president there causing chaos, trying to get in to the building, and the Knicks, almost came back there, but some key clutch shots from the Spurs, and we have a series now. I didn't think this was going to be a team going up 3-0, but incredible scene there at MSG last night, and I kind of agree that that these crucial Game 4s these Game 4s are pretty crucial for the team down 2-1.
Let's as I said, we're going to talk some more hockey. Mike McIntyre's coming on. And we'll get to the Edmonton situation with Iwanyk when he joins us coming up in the next segment. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. But Remo, do want to quickly hit a little bit of the Blue Bombers before Matt jumps on with us, because we actually got a chance to hear from Tommy Condell for the first time. And I think there's a lot of intrigue as to how this Bomber offense is looking, and will look. We got 1 week in. Let's just quickly play up clip 5 if you can. Here's the new Bomber OC, Tommy Condell, on the week 1 performance in the win in Calgary.
Well, number one, we got the victory, so it's always good. But there's going to be a lot of things to improve upon, things that we needed to work on, and things, little things, details maybe, that the naked eye couldn't see, but, we as coaches can. So it was good, though. You're never going to complain about a win, I can tell you that.
What's an example of something that you need to work on?
I think the little things, I was disappointed. I felt we had a couple, one pre-snap penalty that I could have done better on. We had to delay a game, so I didn't like that on my behalf.
Leading up to this season, people were often saying that, your offenses typically don't run the ball that much, and yet week 1, you guys definitely ran the ball quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever narrative's out there, I'm going to win that game. So I think that's going to be important. If we secure the football and try to get explosives, and if we go in and run, 50 times and we throw it 50 times, I've learned a long time ago, it's like my kids, we go to a steakhouse, someone's not going to be happy. One wants hot dogs, one wants this, you know what I mean? So, but the most important thing is we got to win the game.
But it's not a narrative, it's a fact. You've never had a team that's like top 3 rushing, I don't think.
Not top 3?
Yeah, I don't think so.
The thing about it, like I said, is I think you got to win that game, and it depends on what you have too. I think those are important things. You got to do what's best for your players, and like we said before, I think here, coming into here, and things that a lot of things are already here for that, and then we have to make sure we honor that.
OC. Now, we may even hit a little CFL. We're certainly going to hit the latest on the NHL out of Edmonton, and I'm going to pick the big brain of Matt Iwanyk for some World Cup talk coming up. But Darrin Bauming will be on later on. But here's one more clip from Condell, who talked about the job of the OC, his outlook in crunch time when the Bombers got the ball with 1:04 left to play, needing a field goal to win. We'll listen to that, and then we'll come back with Matt Iwanyk from Edmonton Sports Talk.
Mind racing? Or?
No, I mean, you kind of go, you have the process. Mike Osh does a great job of all these situations, right? So we've already talked about it, and now it's just a matter of time to see what plays we really want to be able to do, and I think those are the moments that are kind of the best. Everyone, a lot of coaches put their khakis on the same way, but the ones that can adapt and also be in that moment and not let it be the moment too big. And most importantly, it's really the players, and to be honest with you, not to say that I just can close my eyes and point to a play at times, but, to me, it's really about the players and what they did. And you saw that big game that we had, the first thing that you saw was the zone blitz and the 5 guys up front, and having a new center to be able to make sure we make the right points. And then we had Brady come out there and stuff the zone blitz rusher, and then we were able to throw it to Poke. So, but the key thing was it was also on the other side with the receivers and what Nick was doing, and so it was really a team effort, and to me that was kind of the whole thing.
Was there an eye-opening moment for you that okay, this is the kind of team we've got? Or?
I don't know if it was an eye-opening moment. I think it was just we've been practicing, but practicing theory and reality are 2 different things. So to be able to go out there and actually do it and do it together and do it, when your best was needed and everyone went out there and did that. Yeah. I mean, that's what I think you can build upon, and win those moments, that competitive greatness, and not have it too big for the moment. None of it was, even for the people that were the first times out there, to be able to direct the traffic and, like I said, to pick up the zone blitz and be able to do it, it's a credit to all the coaches, Marty and Jason and Lee and Braylon. So I think that all goes in. It kind of encapsulates the whole moment. So I think it's a credit to that.
This is the time, folks. Last week to get your tickets for the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery and count yourself in for early bird prizes worth over $250,000. Get your tickets at tryhospitaldream.com before midnight on Friday, and you will have the option, if you are the big early bird winner, of a 26 Land Rover Range Rover SE plus $50,000 cash, or a 26 Mercedes-Benz G850 SUV valued at over $245K, or $210,000 cash tax-free. There's also 25 $500 early bird winners in cold hard cash. And of course, everyone getting a ticket will be in for the grand prize draw. And the grand prize will be one of 5 $1.7 million dream home packages, or $1.35 million cash. It is all in support of the Health Sciences Center, the St. Boniface Hospital, and the HSC Children's Hospital. Get your tickets today, gang. Tryhospitaldream.com, or pop by your local London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations to get them in person. Make sure to check out the 50/50 and extra cash plus options as well. Become an instant millionaire and support our hospitals with the Try Hospital Dream Lottery. A big shout out to our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Of course, Clean Line are Winnipeg's most trusted plumbers with over 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg, leading the way as well with residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services around the greater Winnipeg area. You can check them out online and make an appointment at cleanline.ca. And don't forget the number 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. I was out fishing on the weekend and, got into talk about boats and everything that goes on with, with fishing weekend. And one thing was clear. The guys in the know for batteries all go to Manitoba Battery. It was fun talking to a bunch of fellows that I just met for the first time about how they are at Manitoba Battery a number of times a year because, of course, Manitoba Battery is the local option with the best prices in town, period. These guys aren't wasting their time and money at the big box stores. They're shopping local. They're going to Logan Avenue. They're going to Dovercourt Drive and getting the best prices in town for their boats, for their RVs, for their dirt bikes, you name it. If it needs a battery to take on summer, Manitoba Battery has it, and Manitoba Battery is the best price in town. Manitoba Battery also very fired up to be on board with your Winnipeg Blue Bombers as a corporate sponsor. It all starts on Thursday with the home opener. Manitoba Battery, your number one local option for the best and lowest prices in batteries and powering your blue and gold this year. And hey, got to shout out our friends at Rolly's Transfer as well. If you've got a move coming up this summer or fall, lean on our friends at Rolly's, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. They've been doing it for over 60 years, family owned and operated. Make sure to go and check out their website at rollys.com. Top right corner, you can request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to move. The friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they have been famous for over 60 years. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today over at rollys.com. All right, let's bring in our pal Matt Iwanyk, who I first need to congratulate on teaming up with yours truly for one of the great weeks in Lock Shop history. Absolutely killed it, Matty. And now we're back at it, getting ready for week 2 of the Canadian Football League and the World Cup. And yet, once again, we are almost forced into talking about the Oilers right off the top. First and foremost, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we nailed the teaser parlay. We hit the other parlay. Jay and I also hit, we built a parlay just for the game, and we boosted the Elks money line. Like, there was a bunch of checks that that happened after Saturday's win. And man, you and I will be doing it again on Thursday. And I look forward to building off of week 1 and getting some winners in week 2.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, and of course, Thursday is also a huge day because it is the start of the World Cup, which I want to talk to you about and get your thoughts on some of the non-Canada groups. I think a lot of us are a little cloudy on, but I mean, take us through your day yesterday. I mean, doing the show, I think it was sort of at the end of our program, so probably when Hernan and the guys were on, that this Mike Babcock news broke. And I'll be honest, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, they're just throwing his name out, or he's a guy they might have talked to. And I mean, as the news started coming out, you realize this was far more advanced than just throwing a name out. And maybe even more surprisingly, that the key players, the guys that are the real shot callers in that organization, 29 and 97, seemingly were behind it.
Yeah, it was a wild day yesterday, and like I'll go so far as saying I was listening to Bob Stauffer on his show yesterday, and Bob is state media for the Edmonton Oilers, so when he says something, it's coming from above, and he said, barring something major, Mike Babcock will be the next head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. So that's what we're looking at here. And a whirlwind of emotions, because when his name was first floated out there a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were like, don't want that. And he told Darrin Dreger that he was retired. Well, clearly things have changed since then with Mike talking to the players, talking to the management, talking to owner Daryl Cates. This shows, I think, a little bit of desperation from everyone involved in the Edmonton Oilers, where they have nowhere else to go. That they know, as we all know, if this season doesn't go well for the Oilers, or if the next 2 seasons, if you really want to give a little bit of grace period with Connor's contract being 2 years, if they don't go well, it's sayonara to everyone. Connor will be gone, then Leon will ask for a trade, and everyone is just going to break up and move their own separate ways. So how do you just try to go for one last hurrah? And it's, why not just throw one more thing at the wall and see if it sticks? And I guess that's being Mike Babcock. I see this as a very high risk, high reward. At one point, he was the best coach in hockey. He was highly sought after before going to Toronto and ending up in Toronto. He was trusted with Canada at the 2010 and the 2014 Olympics. This guy was the coaching guy, but then we've known everything that's happened since, and all the stories that have come out from Detroit and Mitch Marner in Toronto and how it ended with Columbus. The high risk is this is a disaster, and Connor McDavid is gone in a year. The reward is Mike Babcock wants to learn, and a guy wants to fix his legacy, and the Edmonton Oilers get back to being a cup contender. But man, this is fans aren't happy, and this is one where you're bringing in a coach that, I don't care that he last won a cup in 08. Tortorella might win a cup. He last won in 04. He hasn't won a playoff series in 2013. That in itself should give you a little bit of pause, but the Oilers like to keep things exciting. They like to keep things entertaining. The one thing I do wonder, why not just wait for Bruce Cassidy and see if you're going to get him? Because no one else is hiring Mike Babcock in the next 2 weeks. The only team that needs a coach is Toronto, and he's not going back there. So I don't understand the full rush. But hey, the Edmonton Oilers want to just keep things entertaining and make our lives easier on Edmonton Sports Talk. I'm very pleased for that.
Dude, the funniest thing is you know exactly how it's going to go down. They're going to get this done. The Cup final's going to end. The Oilers are going to announce that Mike Babcock is their new head coach. And 10 minutes later, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to give Bruce Cassidy full reign to talk to whoever he wants now that the Kings and Oilers have their coaches.
Or they're just going to say, because no one else will need coaches, oh, yeah, we're always going to let them speak at the end of the Cup final. We're always going to let them do that. It's going to be so Vegas. And I respect it out of that whole organization, from Bill Foley to George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon. I kind of respect it that they're doing something no one else has done in hockey, and they have every right to do this. And why help the Edmonton Oilers? Like, I do get it. Like, that Connor could leave in a year or two. I'm not doing anything I can. I'm going to do everything I can to help try to make that happen. And if that means Bruce Cassidy can't coach, they're great. And now Mike Babcock will be the coach there. And if I'm Vegas, I'm laughing because, yeah, this could be difficult if I'm the Vegas Golden Knights. This could be tough going up against Mike Babcock if he could be that coach that he once was. But if he can't, you're laughing because the Edmonton Oilers are just going to be a disaster for a number of years, and the dysfunction just keeps creeping back into this organization.
I don't know if you caught the lock shop when Dusty and I were talking about it today, but he mentioned that he got an unsolicited text from a player that had played for Mike Babcock, and he, in no uncertain terms, called him a human piece of bleep.
He wasn't a piece of bleep. He was a pile of bleep.
Oh, pile, a steaming pile. Yes.
Yeah.
As a person, as a human, as a coach, he did also say that he was probably the best X's and O's tactician that he's ever seen. I guess the best case scenario for the Oilers is that, the errors of his ways, the public embarrassment, the airing out, the backlash, all of that has maybe resonated at some point with a man knowing what he has to do to get his next coach, another shot. I have a feeling that when he said to Drager he was loving retirement and very happy doing that, that was because he didn't think that anyone would ever pick up the phone again. Funny how things can change when there's actually an opportunity for somebody. But Mike Babcock, especially with what happened in Columbus after everything in Toronto, Marner, all of that as you laid out.
Franzen.
This is one chance. Well, I mean, I still think that the benching Mike Modano for what would have been his 1,500th career game and having Modano end at $14.99 is just one of the, frankly, just that alone.
It's being a dick for the sake of being a dick.
I am shocked that the players would line up behind it. But it seems like the players almost have that same level of desperation I think that the organization has. And there's obviously a connection with Zach Hyman. And I think Zach Hyman might be the key guy in all of this. Now, Hyman's family, or I guess his brother, just hired Michael Babcock, Babcock's kid, to be the head coach of their OHL team. And Zach knows very well playing for Mike Babcock from his time in Toronto. So I think he might, in a funny way, be the most influential guy of that group. And listen, Hyman is such a solid dude, so respected, loved by his teammates. I think that goes a long, long way. But here's the difference about this opportunity than any others. And as I said to Dusty, I would be shocked if he got anything more than a 2-year contract. I would expect it would be 2 years. It would mirror the window of the McDavid extension, and he gets a chance to come in. If he reverts to some of the mental manipulation and basically just, to lack of a better term, the scumbag tactics that he did before, he took advantage of the power dynamic of the coach to players before, like not many others have. Here's the difference. That power dynamic does not exist in Edmonton because the power is with 97 and 29 and the key players on that team. So I have a feeling that he would be forced to come back with a little more humility and focusing more on what made him a great coach and not a guy that's so reviled by so many players that crossed paths with him before.
But the flip side to that, I will say, is he doesn't go after the star players. When Mitch Marner, he went after Mitch Marner, he was the rookie. There was a different leadership core that was there. He went after Mitch Marner. Johan Franzen, even though had great playoffs, he wasn't Nick Lidstrom. It wasn't Henrik Zetterberg. It wasn't Pavel Datsyuk. He targets the lower guys. He's that classic bully where he is not going after McDavid or Leon. He's finding the younger players or the third, fourth liners or second, third pairing defensemen. He's going after them. And if that's the case in reverse that way, I don't know if this is a leadership core that's willing to push back on Mike Babcock. I don't know if Connor and Leon are the type of people that will go and, when Mitch Marner had his whole story came out, it came out that Kadri and that leadership group went up to Babcock and said, this is dumb. Why'd you do this to him? And he ultimately had to apologize for that. I don't know if the Oilers have that leadership group within that locker room that is that tight. They don't have the Corey Perry around anymore. There's a lot of introverts with this group outside of maybe Leon, that if Mike Babcock reverts to his old ways, I don't know if they have the right players to push back on him. But then I also look at the X's and O's of Mike Babcock, and I wonder about that with this team and go, the one thing I looked at was, Tyson Barrie was traded from Colorado to Toronto. Mike Babcock tried making him this fully defensive player. Didn't work. And the Edmonton Oilers got Tyson Barrie for a 1-year show-me deal, and he got a flourish again. I look at a guy like Evan Bouchard and go, what's Mike Babcock going to do with an Evan Bouchard? Is Mike Babcock going to let Evan Bouchard be that offensive guy, or is he going to try to make Evan Bouchard a little bit more of a defensive player? And if he does, can Evan Bouchard be that defensive player that Mike Babcock's going to want to be? I don't see Mike Babcock as a coach that coaches his players and builds a system around them. He has a system and he puts his players in that system. And as much as the Oilers do need that, Like I look at players like Jake Wallman or Evan Bouchard and go, I don't know how well you're going to do in a Mike Babcock system.
You know what? You make a great point. It's going to be fascinating if it does go down that road. I don't believe the PA will hold this up.
No.
Probably because the most important member of their association is on the phone saying we want this to happen, and we'll get the green light for it. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like this is, if the players are the ones saying we're good with this, why do the other players care? For the other players, like if you're a free agent, maybe you choose not to come to Edmonton because Mike Babcock. If you have a no trade, no move clause, you might look at Edmonton and go, I don't want to go there because I don't want to be coached by Mike Babcock. That's where a lot of the players are going to have their power. Sure, if for those other players that get traded here that don't have that trade protection, they'll have to deal with it. But for the most part, if these players are saying, yeah, let's do it, I don't see the PA, how they block it. The NHL, I also think, like you've let Stan Bauming, you let Joel Quenneville become GMs and head coaches again in this league. You're allowing Carter Hart to play in the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't see how you hold this back when those are the things that the standards that you've set in the National Hockey League. So no, I fully expect that, next week or the week after, we're going to have that press conference. Mike Babcock's the new head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, and we will see how this plays out for the next 84 regular season games in Edmonton and possibly playoffs. And could Mike Babcock win a Stanley Cup with the Oilers? Could he even win a playoff series? It's going to be fun next season because it's always a little bit of a soap opera here.
What let me just quickly to our chat throw out the why not question of the day for not Autocorp but Waverly and McGillivray. A good move for the Oilers, or is this patently insane by them to go down this road considering what we know? Let us know in the chat. What was the immediate reaction of fans on EST yesterday, and has that changed while Stoff and Rishaug and everyone are pumping up, letting everyone know that the players are sort of behind this? And well, to quote Rishaug on TSN last night, have, quote, full-throated support for the move.
He didn't say that, did he?
Oh, yeah. I almost tweeted it afterwards, and I said, you know what? This has been on for a bit. I'll talk to the guys tomorrow on EST and on the show.
Okay. Good job, Brian.
Full-throated support.
Yeah. Okay. So it started off, I would say it was extremely negative, extremely anti this. This is sending Connor out of the town. This is sending Leon out of town. Then the news starts coming up that the players are involved, and things have shifted. There's still a lot of people that I think for the most part don't like this guy as a coach. They don't like him as a person. They don't like what he could possibly do to this locker room. But then there's a couple of factions that have also split off. One is, if the players are good for this, who are we to say that this isn't the right coach? That is one going down. And if Connor and Leon speak in the city, there's a large part of people that will just listen. If they say I only drink Pepsi, not Coke, people will just start drinking Pepsi, not Coke. That type of stuff. We only use premium gas in our cars. People will start using premium gas as opposed to regular. Like, those guys speak, everyone will just follow. And then there's a portion of people that just say we don't care what type of person he is. Does character matter? Does any of that matter? What ultimately matters is, are you going to win or are you going to lose? Are you going to win a Stanley Cup or are you not going to win a Stanley Cup? And ultimately, when you look at the wins-loss record and you look at the resume, Mike Babcock's one of the best ever have done it. He's the only coach to have won an Olympic gold, a World Hockey Championships, and a Stanley Cup. This is a guy who, as you even said, the X's and O's is excellent. He was the highest sought-after coach after Detroit. This is just a solid coach who maybe, again, is coming in with that chip on his shoulder of wanting to fix his legacy. And there's that part of it. I think if we poll, the majority are still against this move. Think it's just a terrible idea, and bad things might or will probably come from it. But you are starting to see the little support behind it. One, because it's the Edmonton Oilers and they could do no wrong because it's their team. And the other, Mike Babcock's a winner. He's won a Stanley Cup before, which is one of the big things that the Oilers were looking for in this. Berube, Laviolette, Cassidy, Babcock, what do they have in common? They've all won a Stanley Cup. That's all we know that the Oilers have spoken to. He's got that cup. Bring him in. That's where some people are.
Matt Iwanyk of Edmonton Sports Talk with us on WST as we get in. Hey, just before we move off of, what did you make of the Larkin trade request, and then the report yesterday, certainly coming out of Detroit management, that he's decided that he'll do them the service of lifting his no move for three teams: the Florida Panthers, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Minnesota Wild?
Was there a meeting in Italy between all these U.S. hockey players to say we're just going to team up and we're going to try to dominate the NHL, and these are the 3 markets we're going to go to? Like, it seems like it's all USA hockey connections now. Go to Minnesota, Vegas, or Florida. If I'm Steve Yzerman, who's not a stranger to trade requests from his days in Tampa, I tell Dylan Larkin, we'll see what's there, but otherwise we'll see in September here and Hockeytown. Like, you want to expand, you want to trade out, give me a bigger list than 3. If not, you're locked in until 2031. I expect to see you in camp. I expect to see you because we will keep you locked in here. It's not like you can walk in 1 or 2 years. I have no problem with players exercising their player protection. I have no problem with them wanting it. I know there's some people that say if you ask for a trade, you should lose that. No, you've earned that. And if you want out, you can ask for out. But I do think if you really want out, you have to be a little bit more lenient. You have to be a little bit more, okay, these are my main teams I would like to go to. If these ones don't work, then this is my next list. And then we can go from there. If it's just those 3, if I'm Steve Yzerman, I'm going, not a chance. We'll see you in camp.
I'm with you. And I think for teams like Buffalo, like Winnipeg, some of these, Detroit's still an original 6 team.
Yep.
They were one of the great teams that we've seen ever recently, but they've never played a playoff game at Little Caesars Arena. Larkin's been there for over 800 games and is getting a bit antsy. And it's very clear that it got icy between the captain and the GM over the last little bit. But you make a great point about Yzerman's time in Tampa. Ask Marty St. Louis about what happened when he decided. He just
Jonathan
held out
Drouin.
and ended up getting. And Jonathan Drouin's maybe the best one. Waited him out to the point where he actually rescinded it and then traded him for Sergachev. And obviously that worked out beautifully for Tampa. So, there's I see a similarity from Yzerman to Kevin Cheveldayoff in that they've been hit with these spots before and have held their cards close to the vest, been patient, waited it out, and got the deal that made sense for this team. Because for everyone that thinks that, the players have all the power, you know what? You do if you're an unrestricted free agent. Matt Tkachuk had that. Quinn Hughes had that because they were approaching free agency when they could walk for nothing. Larkin's got 5 years left on his deal. Like, it is apples and oranges, day and night, if you will. And you're exactly right. Like, if he doesn't open this up to far more teams, unless one of those teams is just going to give Yzerman the Godfather offer, I think we know that's not happening. These teams literally can't do it right now based on it. There's going to have to be another bigger tier of teams that allow him to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have him come back as a villain in his hometown, home state, and either be forced to play or he'll have to hold out and not get paid.
And then he won't do that. He'll want to just keep playing. And that's the thing. Like, if you're Steve Yzerman, you hold quite a bit of chips and you got to use those. And yeah, you could talk to those 3 teams and you're right. They just don't have the assets. It doesn't seem like to be able to get a Dylan Larkin. But maybe you work out a deal if you're Steve Yzerman and there's, 2 or 3 other teams that you look at and be like, hey, I can maybe work with them. That's where Dylan Larkin's going to have to be a little more open. If he is, then, hey, if you're Steve Yzerman, go do what you have to do. But if he's going to be firm on just these 3 teams, I fully expect that we'll see him as a Detroit Red Wing next year. But I also love that you praised the Detroit Red Wings and the history and how good they once were, because the Edmonton Oilers really loved the Detroit Red Wings themselves, with Ken Holland, with Mike Babcock, with Todd McClellan and Jay Woodcroft, all coming from there. They're trying to recreate the 2000s Detroit Red Wings here in Edmonton. Just want to make sure, let people know that it seems Daryl Cates is a huge fan of the Red Wings himself.
Well, I will say this. Coming back to wrap up the whole Babcock business, and I had the original thought, I'm like, Babcock, you've got to be kidding me. What will the players think and all that? The fact that we know that the players, and most importantly, the key players, are behind this, I actually feel a lot better about it, because I would literally feel better about anybody making decisions for the Oilers other than the guys that are actually paid to make those decisions in the front office right now. So I think Connor and Leon probably are in a better situation to evaluate and make that happen as opposed to what we've seen from Stan and his crew.
Although, if this comes from Zach Hyman also would have been the one that kind of recommended Jack Campbell be the starting goalie of the Edmonton Oilers, and we know how that one played out.
Yeah, Soupy. Where is he now?
He was in Detroit 2 years ago. I don't know where he was last year.
Yeah, I think he's pretty much shutting it down. Maddie, let's get to the World Cup before we go. First off, I mean, we've talked about this before on Lock Shop, but for our audience here in Manitoba, how are we feeling about Team Canada? Big stories. Bombito, will he be able to go? How are we feeling about Canada heading into our opener on Friday afternoon?
It's all about the moment you ask me of how I'm feeling. And my mood changes all the time when it comes to this. A couple days ago, I was feeling really good. Then I went down, and yesterday I was excited and I was feeling good. As you asked me that, there was like that pit in my stomach popped up because of the Bombito injury. Like this team has featured so many injuries, and I'm okay with most of them. But I did a panel here in town before the Uzbekistan match with Christian Jack, Matt Shinetti, and Joshua Cloak, who followed this team for a long time. And it came up, who's the most important player for Team Canada? And the two names that were discussed, it was Stefan Eustáquio in the midfield, and it was Moises Bombito. He is so important to the back line of this team. He's such an important defender. And the fact that it looks like most likely he won't play, but even if he is on the team, he's probably not going to contribute in a major way. That's tough because we have that. If there's a weakness for Canada, it's their defense. And he helped solidify that when he came onto the scene a couple years ago at Copa America. So that part gets me a little worried. It's all about Friday's match. Bosnia they could be sneaky good. They could have some speed. They have a great scorer, a great striker. But can Canada find a way to get points in that match? If it's a draw, you can handle it, but ultimately, if you go talent to a degree, especially when healthy, Canada's going to be better than Bosnia. I'll stand by that. And we've improved so much as a nation. We could go beat Bosnia, and if you get that win, we're going to beat Qatar. Qatar's awful. And anything short of a win against Qatar is going to be a disaster. Like, not even 1-0, too. They better go win 2-3. Goal differential is going to matter. If you get a win against Bosnia and you go beat Qatar, also, we're talking about knockouts. Like, we're in. We're moving on. But even if you get a draw, you're in a very good spot. So it's that Bombito. That's the thing. If it wasn't for that injury, if we knew he was going to be playing even at 75%, 60%, I'd be sitting here right now going, let's go. Let's get ready for the knockout. Canada's going to have a really good group. Let's go take Switzerland and win this group. But the fact that he's not going to be there, that's the one thing that where my mood changes is how I'm feeling about Bombito any given day. So I still feel really good. I think we're getting out of the group, but I'm looking more so as I could see a good chance that Canada's going to be having to be third and move on as opposed to second or first. And to do that, 3 points might be good enough. To do that, we're going to have to beat Qatar by big. Otherwise, if we could just get a draw on Friday, we're looking really good for moving on to the knockout stage. I love that we have Switzerland last. That's the thing. If we could just snag points early, we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you get the first 2 wins, you're in a position to potentially win the group.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the draw.
Absolutely. Or you could handle that match however you wish. Like, let's say Canada loses to Bosnia and beats Qatar. Okay, now that Switzerland game maybe matters a little bit more. And maybe Alphonso Davies is ready for that match and you put him out there. But maybe you do that a little too soon if it's Switzerland. If you have 6 points, you try to win to stay in Vancouver, but you also might be able to sit there and go, you want to know something with Alphonso Davies or Jacob Schaffelberg or any of these other guys with Knicks? We don't need to rush them right away because we know we're going to have another match. And that's where, we're if the World Cup was a month later, if the World Cup started June 11th or July 11th instead of June 11th, I would feel really good about Canada because I think Bombito with an extra month would have been fully healthy. I think we would have been a much better spot for, Promise David would have got a little bit better. Alfonso would have been ready to go. It's just the fact that it's starting right now. But yeah, and another thing too is where I really want them to get a win though on Friday. What does that do for our country? Like, how many people are going to be watching this game on Friday because, the World Cup's finally here. They haven't been following along. And if you get a win, then that match in Qatar, everyone's going to really get behind this team. Whereas if you follow with a loss, it's going to, I think that might kill the buzz in this country, especially with the non-soccer fans. A win on Friday. We need some Huss magic. You brought it against Ukraine. It's like, we need some Huss magic, Huss. So you need to be ready, cheer on those boys, and get us those 3 points.
That is the plan, my man. That is the plan. Go out, mission accomplished, see a couple Jays games, and then get back here and get ready for the Qatar game that you will be at. Just before we go, Matt, if you had to lay a nickel in the lock shop on the winner of the World Cup, who you got, and what's the dark horse team that maybe not a lot of people are talking that could be maybe make it to the 8s or even the semis?
I just did a pool where I had to do every match of the World Cup. I need to open this up because I think I picked Spain. I think that was which is not a real shocker in that sense. I don't like England. France always does well at the World Cup with their current manager. My World Cup, I think I picked Spain. So I'm going to stick with Spain. They had a great Euros. They won it. It seems like they go in cycles. The sleeper pick. Who would be the sleeper pick that I would go with? I don't like Portugal. I don't like Netherlands. Pardon? Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry. What about the Japanese? Japan.
Japanese to go on a run. They're not going to go win this all.
Yeah,
if you're looking
get to the quarters,
if you're looking for a team, I could see Turkey. Turkey's one that I think with their group with Paraguay, US, I could see them getting through that and them going on a little bit of run. That's one country that I could see. If we're going just for a little bit of a run, Turkey. I wonder if Morocco could do it again. Probably not. But if I would go more Turkey or Japan. Those would be the 2 countries I'd look at that maybe we're talking about in the quarterfinals.
Beautiful. Well, listen, Matt, for those of you that haven't checked it out, Matt is off and on with me on the Lock Shop before WST, noon our time, over on Edmonton Sports Talk. The two of us will be getting back into the World Cup streets on Thursday, as well as picking all the CFL games for the weekend. So join us before Winnipeg Sports Talk over on EST. Matty, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. I appreciate it.
You bet. We'll talk with you on Thursday.
All right, good stuff. All right, a quick timeout. We'll come back, and Mike McIntyre is going to talk some puck with Michael Remis as the show continues right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Do want to thank Princess Auto for their great support of WST. I mentioned a bunch of the fishing dudes were talking about Manitoba Battery on the weekend. They were also talking about the new Princess Auto store. Everyone there had either been there already and raved about it or had planned to get there ASAP when they had got back to the city. This new Princess Auto flagship store is the talk of the town, gang. We've never seen anything like it. You can pop in, you can grab a beer, you can grab a smash burger, take a look, the biggest Princess Auto ever. And especially if you are a camper, a fisherman, a hunter, they've juiced up and got the best of all merchandise, gear, equipment for all of those as well, in addition to everything you've come to know at Princess Auto. Bring the kids, there's free ice cream, there's areas where you can work on stuff, you can shoot a crossbow. It needs to be seen to be believed. So get on down 500 Panet Road, the new flagship Princess Auto store. And on Thursday, make sure you're at Princess Auto Stadium to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do their thing. More information online at princessauto.com. Big weekend over at Chud's, I'm sure. They closed for the May long weekend, and now it's all systems go for summer. So Chud's Power Sports, both new and used inventory available for you when it comes to motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, golf carts, boats and outboard motors, farming equipment, recreational vehicles, big RVs, Argos, and more. They've got some great deals on right now, on used inventory when it comes to motorcycles, side-by-sides, RVs. Great financing options made easy for you so you can turn your adventure into reality. While you're there, make sure to ask them about True North Parts. If you go to their website, chudspowersports.com, you can click on the link. It'll take you to quality used power sports with great deals on ATVs, side-by-sides, snowmobiles, motorcycles, outboards, as well as clearance gear and accessories. They're all waiting for you. Go see the Derminator and the gang of Chuds, Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli, or check them out online today at chudspowersports.com. Hey, if it's been a minute since you've been to see the dentist, don't let that lang. Get that done before we get into the beautiful summer, and it's one less thing on your to-do list. And if you need a great spot to take care of your teeth for yourself and your family, pop down to St. Vital Dental Center, like generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans have. Our good friend Dr. Terry would love to take care of you and your group when it comes to dental services. They do it all for clients from 6 months to 99 plus, with a full range of services from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They do it all. They got a great new spot at 167 St. Anne's with convenient free parking right behind the building as well. For all your dental needs, pop by St. Vital Dental Center. Hit them up online and make an appointment at stviteldental.ca, and make sure to tell Dr. Terry that the boys at WST sent you. And hey, it is World Cup week. The world is here. It's in Canada. The teams have arrived, and it is go time. Mexico kicks off the tournament on Thursday, and then Canada and Bosnia-Herzegovina, 2 p.m. Winnipeg time, Saturday afternoon. Boston Pizza's the place to be for it. Wear red to Boston Pizza's Canada Red viewing parties at every local BP, Friday, June 2nd at 2 p.m. They'll be giving away Team Canada jerseys and World Cup swag, including 3 huge Trianda Authentic World Cup balls from Royal Sports. You can grab the BP $15 lunch special. And every World Cup game is going to be on the big screens at Boston Pizza with specials, prizes, and your chance to win a grand prize trip for 2 to the World Cup final in New York. Stick around. We'll have another MVP platter to give away at the end of today's game.
There's Hess. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm taking over in the host chair. Super pumped right now to be joined by Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press, where despite not having any Winnipeg Jets hockey lately to write about, Mike's been keeping himself quite busy. I'm super pumped to be joined by Mike right now. Mike, how's it going? Thanks a lot for joining us here today.
Going well, Remo. Yeah, lots going on. Not a lot of news around the hockey team right now, although that's probably going to start picking up soon. But I have been enjoying the season-long 10-game homestand for the Goldeyes. I think I've been at 4 of the first 7, and I'm going to be there again tomorrow night, weather permitting. Let's hope the skies and some of this predicted rain maybe holds off. But yeah, it's been fun to be around the ballpark, cover some baseball. Fish have a fun team this year, cover some golf. And I did get to cover some hockey today, just not necessarily Jets related. Just got back a short time ago here from the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame announcement. And of course, very much keeping an eye on the Stanley Cup Final, which has a distinct Manitoba flavor to it. So yeah, lots going on. Never a dull moment in the toy department, as they call sports.
Yes, and you talk about the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame announcement. Who is on this year's class?
Yeah, it's a big class. For those who maybe aren't aware, they don't announce a new class every year. They do it biannually, so every 2 years. And I believe, if I have my numbers right, well, technically there were 16 inductees, except there's 2 teams that were inducted, so it's actually a much bigger number. In terms of recognize some of these names, players included Larry Brown, who spent a decade in the NHL, Aaron Asham, the pride of Portage La Prairie, the 1968-69 Flin Flon Bombers. That's a team some may remember. Had a couple guys on it. Bobby Clark, Reggie Leach, recognize those names? That was a pretty good team in the MJHL that year. Bryce Salvador, who you can actually now see him these days. He's an analyst on, I think, with the TNT coverage that's happening of the NHL. Delaney Collins from Pilot Mound, who had a great career in hockey, and Ken Baumgartner And Mike Leclerc, who, Remo, I used to play hockey with Mike Leclerc, actually. A fun little connection. Mike is 1 year younger than me. His older brother, Mark, is my age. Mark Leclerc and I were teammates for years on the Gateway Flyers. I'll never forget, Mike and Mark's dad used to be our coach, like a goalie coach. And he would come out, he wouldn't skate though. This is one of my favorite stories from minor hockey. He would come out onto the ice during our practices with a bucket of pucks in his boots, in his winter boots. And he didn't have a hockey stick. He didn't have skates. He would throw pucks at us. That's how he would warm us up. Mark Leclerc and I were kind of goalie job share partners. We were the Hellebuck and Comrie, I guess. Mark was probably the Hellebuck. I was probably the Comrie. But Mike, the younger brother, was so good. I remember we used to call him up, even though he was a year younger. This is obviously before he kind of went on his path of junior hockey onto the NHL. But Mike used to come in and he'd play with us as like a call up, and he'd be the best player for both teams on the ice, despite being a year younger. So those are the players. Bob Caldwell in the builder category, Patty Don Swanson in the media category, Don Bouchard in the grassroots category, along with Ivan Strain. He's a broadcaster. Ryan Galloway, longtime NHL linesman who recently retired. He was in the official category. And last but not least, under the dynasty category, the CPAC Women's Hockey Club from the 1970s. And there was about 13 members of that club that were in attendance today down at the Iceplex. I talked to a bunch of them. Fun group of women who were just absolutely blown away to be entered into the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame. So, yeah, I'll kind of have it all summed up in a story I'm writing later today. That'll be in tomorrow's paper. But a really nice event put on by Hockey Manitoba as they announce their latest inductees.
I'm sure it's hard not to notice everyone at the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame announcement, currently in the Stanley Cup Final, just the Manitoba flavor on either side. And I imagine some names playing in this year's final will be in there eventually. I mean, like Seth Jarvis and Jordan Martinook on Carolina, and we all know about Vegas, Mark Stone, Brad Howden, Keegan Kolesar, up towards management and media as well. Yep. With Shane Knighty, can we say Gary Lawless? He's honorary.
I think so. He's an adopted Winnipegger, yeah, and Kelly McCrimmon, of course. I mean, Kelly's, I believe, from Saskatchewan, but kind of a Manitoban. Yeah, I mean, it was a hot topic. Like, obviously, we're at the ceremony today. They're talking about the past a little bit with all these inductees, but the topic of the present and the future of Manitoba hockey was certainly a hot topic, and it's certainly been on display in this Stanley Cup Final. I mean, Remo, go up and down those names you just mentioned. Like, all of those players are playing prominent roles in what's been going on, and Brett Howden's leading all players in NHL playoff goals, which I don't think anyone would have predicted that. So, Jordan Martinook's had a couple of really big goals. Seth Jarvis had a huge goal, the overtime winner in game 2. Mark Stone's been, an absolute warrior for Vegas, and Keegan Kolesar has chipped in as well. So, yeah, all 5 Manitobans playing big roles. One thing for sure, we know the Stanley Cup is coming to Manitoba this summer because, either the 3 Vegas guys or the 2 Carolina guys are winning it, and no doubt they'll be bringing it back home here for a bit of a celebration with family and friends. I must say, Remo, is this not the best first 3 games of a Stanley Cup Final, like, ever? And maybe, some will say, oh, it's recency bias or whatever, but for my money, like, I can't remember a better first 3 games with more drama and, just great action. And I think when I was on a couple weeks ago and we were talking about the final, and this is kind of what, I don't want to say I predicted this. I didn't predict it would be this good, but I had a feeling that these 2 teams were going to deliver. I know there was a lot of talk about, the TV ratings are going to be terrible, or nobody likes either team or whatever. But, I think the way these teams played just to get here and how they've now played in the final, this has the potential to be an absolute all-timer. Like, if this could go 6 or even 7, this could go down as one of the best Stanley Cup finals ever. And, I've heard from some hockey fans say, I stopped watching. I don't care about these teams. To which I'd say you're missing out on a pretty good product right now.
It's funny. Yeah. Normally I usually tap out, round 1's amazing. There's games every night. And, round 2 kind of tap out. And, maybe it's because we don't have a lot of people reference the Blues Bruins series as great. And I think I tapped out because there was so much disappointment here about the Jets season. And with the Jets being out of it early, you don't have that bitterness, like having to watch Dallas last year in the conference final or something like that. And we kind of sit back and relax. And all the Manitobans in there does give you, rooting interest, or having Vegas as the villain as well. But they've been, great games with incredible comebacks and, performances that you haven't seen in years, like Mitch Marner with the natural hat trick, or again, the comeback yesterday. So I'm looking forward to Game 4 tonight. And it is nice to know that the Cup will be back in Manitoba one way or another. But there's a bunch of other Manitobans, not just in hockey, making news on big stages. And I know you just spoke with Braxton Kuntz. He was at, and just fell short at the U.S. Open amateur qualifier.
Yeah, what a day yesterday. So it's called the longest day in golf, which is the final stage of U.S. Open qualifying, which historically happens, the week before the U.S. Open, and all the players competing in this, they had to qualify just to get to the qualifier. So Braxton already did that, and yesterday at his qualifying event, I forget the exact number. I want to say there was about 70, 75 golfers, and there were 4 spots on the line. Braxton finished 5th. One shot out of being in the top 4. You needed to be 9 under, and this is a 36-hole score. You needed to get to 9. Braxton was 8. And he had a birdie putt on his 36th hole, about a 20-footer, he told me, that he just left short, just missed it. And, you want to talk about, lamenting maybe a shot here or there that got away. I'm going to be writing about this later today, but he told me early in his second round yesterday afternoon, I think it was the 5th hole. Don't have the scorecard in front of me, but it was the first par 5 on the course. And of course, he didn't know it at the time. He actually wasn't really in contention. He came on really strong on the back 9 of his final round. But he said he hit the green in 2 on the par 5. So he had an eagle putt. He made bogey. He 4-putted. And he missed qualifying for the U.S. Open by a stroke. So, do the math. As I said to him, is there one particular hole, if you look back on and say, was there a shot that I kind of could have not let get away from me? And he said that hole for sure. But that being said, this qualifying event, if you look at the names on it, Remo, tons of familiar names, like guys that have been on the PGA Tour, some of them for years. He beat almost all of them. And, he's not even a full year into his pro career. Obviously, Braxton, very decorated amateur golfer in Manitoba, multi-time Manitoba amateur champ. He's just kind of starting his pro career. And obviously he would have loved to have qualified for the US Open, but just to get this close, he said has given him all kinds of confidence now going forward. And how could it not? So, he was asked, would you almost have preferred to miss it by a ton of strokes versus 1? And he said, well, this is way more painful, obviously, than missing by a ton. But then he said something which I loved, which he said, but this is the kind of pain I want. Like, you want to be in contention. And so there is a tiny bit of hope. I should say, for those wondering, although he didn't qualify, he is down as a second alternate. And it would take a series of very unfortunate events for some other golfers. Braxton told me that he figures it's between a 1% and 3% chance that he could get into the field next week. It would take, as he said, it would take like a bunch of guys getting food poisoning or something. So, he's kind of counting on a miracle and what would be a nightmare for some other golfers. But he is an alternate, so the door isn't completely shut. But what a great performance by the Manitoban, and he would have been, I believe, Adam Spears qualified. I want to say it was in 2006. Like, this might have been exactly 2 decades later. That's the last time a Manitoban was in a U.S. Open or a PGA Major. So he came really close this time. This probably won't be the last time that he's in the hunt, though.
Yeah, interesting stuff from Braxton Kuntz, just starting out his pro journey. Before we continue, I should mention this segment sponsored or brought to you by Prairie Toyota Dealers. Looking to dominate off the ice as much as you do on it? Check out the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain. When it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag days from March through May. Mike, I have to ask you about the other Manitoban golfer I saw you were writing about in the Winnipeg Free Press. Aaron Cockrell, what a journey from Toulon to the DP World Tour. He recently moved overseas. Where did he move to?
Dubai.
Dubai, right?
A bit of a hot spot in the world right now. Although maybe not so much right now, but a couple of months ago, Dubai was right in the crosshairs of Iran and some of what was going on over there. Yeah, Aaron's had a remarkable career. The kind of career that the Braxton Kuntzes are certainly aspiring to have. Aaron is just 2 years removed from winning about $1.5 million Canadian on the DP World Tour, like a huge breakthrough season. Last year struggled a little bit and actually lost his full-time DP Tour card. He finished just outside. I think it was the top 115, and he just missed that. So he's got what's known as temporary status on the tour this year, which means he still gets to play a ton of events, just can't necessarily pick and choose his schedule. But unfortunately for Aaron, Remo, he's been battling a torn labrum in his shoulder for the last couple of years. He's been playing through it. And for a while, he was playing very well through it. But he said the pain has sort of started catching up to him. It's affecting his swing speed. It's affecting his distance. And it's really affected his consistency. He's had a lot of events this year where, he's in the hunt after a round or two and then really has fallen apart, or even sometimes within a round, like his game, it's been a real roller coaster. So he decided a week ago that he's going to hit pause on his career and finally get his shoulder taken care of. He underwent surgery last week here in Winnipeg, and he's facing probably a 6 to 8 month recovery and rehab. The good news for him is they do have medical exemptions, kind of like the PGA does as well. Graham DeLate would be a very well-known golfer, Canadian, that got one. So although he hasn't had a great season so far, he will get the chance when he's healthy, which is probably going to be now early next year, into early next season, where he gets to play the number of tournaments that he would have been otherwise in the rest of this year. the pressure will certainly be on Aaron to perform well in those tournaments, to get the points and the earnings that he'll need to kind of hold on to his card. But yeah, I mean, this is something where he said it just became too much, impossible to ignore. Obviously, athletes, we see it all the time. Guys try and fight through, play through stuff. But when it's affecting your actual performance in a meaningful way, probably a smart move on his behalf. So, yeah, I know a lot of folks, a lot of golf fans in Manitoba certainly follow Aaron and what he's been able to accomplish. But you will not be seeing his name in DP Tour fields or leaderboards for the next 6 months or so as he recovers. But silver lining, he's got 2 young kids. He's back here in Manitoba with his family, extended family, and he said, this is going to be the first sort of break he's had from pro golf. He's been going hard for like 11 straight years, so he's kind of looking forward to a bit of a recharge, a reset, and then hopefully comes back better than ever with a fully healthy shoulder.
Yeah, wishing Aaron all the best. I saw you posted on Instagram. He's taking some time off here. We talked about all the current and past, Manitoba pro hockey players, but there's one, could go pretty high at this year's NHL draft, Carson Carroll's. Is there a chance that this player could potentially fall to the Jets at 8 overall? And did you hear anything, about a potential meeting during this weekend's combine?
Yeah, well, I do know that Carson met with the Winnipeg Jets at the combine last week in Buffalo, which is kind of interesting to me, because I think if you look at the majority of mock drafts that pundits have done, Carson is almost always off the board by around the 6th. I think I've seen him maybe go 7th in some mocks. I don't know, and I'm not talking about mocks from like just fans who are, pie in the sky, their wish list. I'm talking about like, experts, junior hockey experts, some of the insider types. The consensus seems to be that Carson's going to be gone as early as as 2 or 3. I mean, some have even talked about San Jose at 2 if they want to go defenseman. I think Chase Reed has been maybe a lot of the focus, but there's like 4 or 5 defensemen that are going to go in that top 10 for sure. That there's a lot of debate about who's the best of them. Is it Chase Reed? Is it Keaton Vierhoff? Is it Albert Smits? Is it Carson Carls? Is it Daxon Rudolph? So the idea that he'd still be there at 8 if you're the Jets, like, did they just go meet him almost as a courtesy because he's from here and they wanted to just chat him up? Or 2 things. Do they believe that he could be still available at 8 based on, chatter they've heard? I think that would take 1 or 2 real surprises ahead of them to happen for him to fall. Or it leaves the door open, I guess, Remo, to, speculation. Could the Jets be looking to move up? And there's been talk that San Jose at the 2 spot would potentially be willing to move for the right price. Chicago at 4, which I think Chicago makes a lot of sense to draft Carson potentially. So is that something, are the Jets just keeping their options open, doing their research? We'll see. I do know this, though. I spent a day with Carson and his family on their farm a few weeks back in Cypress River. They would absolutely be over the moon if he were to be drafted by the Jets. I mean, they're going to be pumped no matter who he goes to. But obviously, they're Manitobans. All their family, friends are here. This would be a chance to have a top prospect, something the Jets have not had at all. They've drafted a couple Manitobans, but they've always been in later rounds. Owen Martin, I think, was the latest one last year from Oakbank, and what's his name? The goaltender now that
Jason Kasdorf.
Jason Kasdorf, yeah. But they've never drafted, and a lot of talk around here with the Stanley Cup Final going on about Seth Jarvis, right? And the Jets took Cole Perfetti that year, and a lot of revisionist. My goodness, why didn't they draft Seth Jarvis? This would be a chance, if they could get their hands on a local kid that, certainly has all the makings of a future star in this league. So it will be interesting to watch for sure. And I know it would mean a ton to Carson and his family. Whether or not it comes to fruition, we'll see. I still think, Remo, this is just my opinion now, if the Jets were going to trade up, like when we talk about position of biggest need, obviously center, and I think just forward in general, to me, that's a bigger need right now than the blue line. It's because they've drafted some blue liners in recent years, Elias Solomonson, Sasha Boumedienne, Alphonse Frey. You can never have enough, of course. And if there's a great defenseman available when it's their turn to pick, absolutely, you'd want to take them. That being said, if you're going to pay the capital to move up in the draft, are you paying that capital to move up and take a defenseman, knowing that there's probably still going to be a very good defenseman just sitting there at 8 anyways? Like if you're moving up, to me, if the Jets are moving up, it's to take one of 3 players. It's to take Gavin McKenna, Ivan Stenberg, or Caleb Malhotra, the center. And I don't know that you'd want to, but I could see, I guess, if you wanted to trade up because you want to get the Manitoban, that's never been something that the Jets have prioritized, at least in the past. But maybe the tune is changing a little bit.
Yeah, just looking at the Jets draft, they did move up to select Logan Stanley. Remember that, but that year was a unique year as they had 2 first-round picks and the second overall pick and Patrick Laine. So it felt like they were just playing with house money at that point. So it is interesting. A lot of talk about trades, and we did have Dylan Larkin making the trade request reported by Helena St. James in the Detroit Free Press. But interestingly enough, Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts said this won't be the last trade request. And there seems to be a lot of talk about players who are on Team USA trying to come together. They had this taste of winning and experience more winning. And, someone who comes to mind there is Connor Hellebuyck. If he's a guy, just going by his year-end comments, is he the one who's Elliot is referring to could be a trade request? Because when you talk about, okay, how are the Jets going to improve, he seemed to be one of the bigger trade chips that they have.
Absolutely, he would be maybe the biggest. And, when would his value be higher than maybe it is now? I guess you could say a year ago when he was coming off the Hart Trophy win. Of course, the idea of even trading Connor Hellebuyck a year ago would have got you laughed out of town. The Jets had just won the President's Trophy. Hellebuyck had just won the Vezina, the Jennings, and the Hart. The last thing you're doing at that point is trading the guy. I mean, the view around here was the window's wide open for the Jets to win a Stanley Cup. But then came last year. Obviously, Hellebuyck didn't have the season he wanted. It included his first ever injury as a professional, missed more than 3 weeks. And of course, the whole Olympic saga where he stood on his head for a couple weeks in Milan, kind of single-handedly won the Americans the gold medal over Team Canada, and then essentially wrapped himself in the flag, Remo, time after time, along with all of his American teammates. And whether you like it or not, it became very political, given what's going on in the world, given what's happened with some American players in Canadian markets, whether it's, Quinn Hughes, before him, Matthew Tkachuk, speculation about Austin Matthews, speculation about Brady Tkachuk, now Dylan Larkin, Connor Hellebuyck coming out at the end of the season and firing a verbal grenade that seemed destined, towards his own organization, all of which has led to speculation. And then, Elliot kind of saying, I don't think this is going to be the last big trade request this summer, naturally leads to speculation about Hellebuyck. I don't have any additional insight to provide other than to say that if you're the Jets, you better be getting some clarity if you don't already have it. This can't be something that it takes you by surprise. Like, you better know right now if Connor Hellebuyck wants in or wants out. And if he wants out, you're not giving him away for free, that's for sure. But you would certainly want to leverage the position that you have to try and get the best possible return. And you wouldn't want to be put in a situation like the Red Wings seemingly now are, Remo, where they basically have three suitors. And if they don't trade him to one of those three teams, Larkin's not going to approve anything, presumably. But you're also left with a disgruntled captain. And how does that relationship get repaired if they don't trade him? So to me, you can't let it get to that stage. You need some clarity. And I imagine, even after that exit day interview from Hellebuyck, I have to think, Remo, that there's probably been talks, whether it's with Mark Chipman, Kevin Cheveldayoff, Scott Arniel, all of the above, with Connor Hellebuyck as this offseason has progressed, to get a sense of, where he's at, where the team is at. Is everybody gonna wait and see how the draft and July 1 free agency shake out and then reassess? Can you let it go beyond that if things are not going well? Lots of questions for sure. And, lots of speculation gives us something to talk about. I mean, at this point, certainly heard nothing to indicate Connor Hellebuyck has put his cards on the table and said, get me out of here. Could he do that at some point? Sure. Anything's possible. And the more sort of connect the dots that start to happen with some of these U.S. Olympians, I guess the grander the conspiracy theories are going to get about all of that.
Yeah, it's been interesting to note, we're short on Jets offseason topics, but Hellebuyck shown, with the NASCAR race this weekend on his new social media account, rocking the Team USA gear, showing off the gold medal, doing the Instagram reel, which I thought was actually very well done. Show as much as I hated watching him show off the pads that he wore in the gold medal game, Mike, but Hellebuyck really embracing his newfound, I don't want to say fame, but as an American icon now for winning the first gold medal in men's hockey, ice hockey, since 1980.
I'm sure he has people in his ear, whether it's his agent, advisors, family, whatever, like saying to him, you gotta capitalize on this momentum. Go to these events that you're going to get invited to. Go to the White House. Accept the Presidential Medal of Honor. The Instagram account is interesting, Remo, because people around here may remember that shortly after the Olympics, where there was certainly a lot of criticism coming towards Hellebuyck for going to the White House, obviously accepting the medal from President Donald Trump. He came out and was very critical of a lot of social media in general, and saying that, especially towards his wife, that some of the things that had been posted were hurtful and hateful, and that it's kind of, brings out the worst of society. Interesting that it wasn't that much longer that he then opens an account. But again, I think this is part of his brand. And, he has a brand now, and it's not just here in Winnipeg. His brand is probably bigger than ever south of the border. Now, does that mean that he wants to go play for a U.S. team? Again, some people have made that conclusion. What I will say is this, Remo, I think he wants more than anything to win a Stanley Cup, period. And if he feels the best chance for that is here in Winnipeg, as he probably did a year ago, and why wouldn't he have, then I think there's no problem. But if he doesn't believe that a Stanley Cup is in his future here in Winnipeg, whether that's because of this team's difficulty in attracting free agents, whether that's because he thinks there's other teams now that are in a much better position, maybe teams that could use a goalie, and we keep looking like to the Florida Panthers, right? Who don't look like they're going to re-sign goalie Bob, who happens to play on Florida. That'd be Matthew Tkachuk, Connor Hellebuck's good buddy. who's the coach of that team. That'd be Paul Maurice, who certainly knows Connor Hellebuck very well. How's the fishing in Florida? I hear it's pretty good down there, year round. Maybe not so much the ice fishing that Connor Hellebuck loves, but so, who knows where that goes, but it certainly is interesting to maybe connect some of these dots and see where they lead us.
Certainly interesting to follow, and I think, any professional athlete today would be wise to set up a social media account and have that direct communication with the fans. I mean, he's got 44,000 followers. Certainly could be useful, once your playing days are over, or even during, to have that connection. It seems like he's enjoying going to events like NASCAR with his family and with his family. So exciting stuff, and for Connor Hellebuck as the Winnipeg Jets offseason, not a lot of news. Although we did have the news last week that you and Ken reported in the Free Press about Shane Doan meeting with Mark Chipman, touring Winnipeg. Is there anything new on that? And is it Shane Doan or bust? Like, if Shane Doan doesn't join the Jets organization, would they look elsewhere to fill a role?
Right. Well, it does tell me that they are interested in expanding the front office of what has traditionally been a very small, extremely small front office. One of the smallest in the NHL, maybe the smallest. You look at some teams, Remo, like Toronto, and I'm only slightly exaggerating when I say they have like 11 assistant GMs. I don't think it's quite that many. Shane Doan was one of them. They seemingly have, an assistant GM for every conceivable task or area of oversight. The Jets don't. They have Kevin Shoveldayoff, they have Larry Simmons, and they have Craig Heisinger, and that's it. And all three of those guys have been here since day one. And there's been no additions, no turnover. And, I think one of the criticisms of the Jets at times has been that they're a little too insular, that, they're too loyal, some will say, and they maybe haven't got outside voices in their ears to tell them some things that maybe they need to hear. And the closest they came to that was actually after Paul Maurice stepped down and after Dave Lowry's interim status wasn't turned into full-time status. And, they launched a pretty wide coaching search. And you may remember, Remo, coming out of that. Of course, Bruce Boudreau was the big rumored name. But, it came out that they interviewed a bunch of guys. And I still remember Kevin Shoveldayoff talking about interviewing John Tortorella and how helpful that was to speak with people like Tortorella, a complete outsider to the organization, somebody who's not afraid to speak his mind. And Shoveldayoff said, he came in and had a bunch of opinions on things that we're doing or not doing here. And then Rick Bowness ultimately gets the job. And yes, he had a connection to this city and the 1.0 Jets, but he was very much a fresh voice. And I think the Jets and the whole organization reaped a lot of rewards from that. So the idea, whether it's Shane Doan, who's seen as, a pretty bright, young, up-and-coming executive, someone with a pretty wide, diverse history. He's got connections in junior. He's got international connections, both as a player and as a manager. He's obviously worked in a major market like Toronto. A lot of pressure there. So, he's an intriguing name for sure. Just the fact that Jets are entertaining the idea of bringing him on board, to me, that's a positive development, that they are open to maybe some new ideas and new voices. Nothing new in terms of Doan specifically. I got to think, he's somebody that's maybe being looked at by a few organizations who might have openings or would create an opening for him. So no news per se, no timeline. But I don't know that it's just Shane Doan or bust. I do wonder if the Jets, if this doesn't pan out for whatever reason, if that is still something they might be open to, and if we might see some changes, at the management level, not necessarily departures, but an addition. And, a lot of folks have wondered, like, is Kevin Cheveldayoff going to keep doing this forever? I know people feel maybe that he's got a job for life. At some point, you got to maybe think about a succession plan. So yeah, lots to keep an eye on there, and an interesting situation for sure.
Certainly is, Michael. I appreciate you coming on for this extended conversation. Hit some hockey topics, some non-hockey Manitoba athletes. So always great having you on, and looking forward to touching base next week.
You bet, Remo. Enjoy the rest of the week. Take care.
Take care. There he is, Mike McIntyre. Check him out, Winnipeg Free Press. Follow him on X, or he's on Instagram too with some behind the scenes from the road stuff. Mike McIntyre, WPG. We'll be back with some Winnipeg Blue Bombers conversation, but first, here's us.
Thursday is not only the Blue Bombers home opener, but it's the start of the World Cup, and Friday, Canada plays its first game on home soil Friday afternoon. Get down to Royal Sports and get geared up for the World Cup, with the best selection of Canada merchandise you will find anywhere, as well as all the top teams from the FIFA World Cup. They are ready to go. They got hats, scarves, jerseys, your favorite players on Team Canada, and more. And it's all waiting for you at Royal Sports. And Friday, mandatory wear red day from coast to coast to get behind the team. So get down to Royal Sports. While you're there, you can check out their massive selection of soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, everything you need to get outside and dominate summer. Not to mention, in the back, a massive selection of bikes. Tons of different models, styles, including e-bikes. Royal Sports has it all. So get ready for the World Cup and take advantage of the beautiful Manitoba summer with a trip to Royal 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Should be a fun week for the Fish. They continue this long homestand tonight. Little off day today, and then tomorrow, kicking off a series, which will, of course, be $2 Tuesdays, one of the new features this year out at the ballpark. There is a whole bunch of deals to got. $2 hot dogs, a $2 lemonade, so much more. It's also country night, so think about heading out there tomorrow. It's also shirt off their backs night on Thursday night against Cleburne, and they've also got a 6:30 start tomorrow night before the team hits the road. So busy weekend. And we should also mention, if you go to the Gold Eye site, we're going to have Andrew Collier on to talk about this coming up in a little bit. But for those of you that like beer, of course, we had the Flatlanders Beer Festival a couple years ago. The Ballpark Brew Fest returns July 18th. More information and a link to buy tickets for that right now online at goldeyes.com. We got a lot of fun stuff cooking with our friends at Travel Manitoba this week. And we're actually going to head down and be doing our show on Thursday from the Visitors Information Center at the Forks. Really looking forward to that. But if you are planning your next adventure, thinking about this summer, start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and events, everything you need is waiting for you at travelmanitoba.com. We're looking for ideas on the go. Follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from across the province. Or if you prefer a personal touch, stop by stop by the Visitor Information Center at the Forks in Winnipeg. And tomorrow, they are back at the track at Assiniboia Downs, live racing this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. post time. Man, we had a good time last Wednesday out at the races. They'll also do it next Tuesday and Wednesday, and then mark down June 22nd. That's the next Monday night of racing, and they've got some incredible Monday deals, including very similar to the $2 of the Gold Eyes on Tuesdays. Popcorn, hot dogs, soft drinks, all at big-time concession discounts. Make a night of it. And by the way, if you're thinking about a Monday to go, I have already circled July 13th to go take advantage of those deals. but also because there will be wiener dog racing. Yes, you heard me right, at the track on July 13th. So while it's nice outside, get out to the track out on the west side of the city, asdowns.com for more information, and you are encouraged to try and get a spot in that clubhouse dining room. Take advantage of that amazing prime rib buffet on nights of live racing as well. Again, AS Downs for all that information. We'll get back to our picks tomorrow when we fire it up on WST.
There's Hess. I'll give full disclosure. We got a video shoot scheduled today with our friends at Travel Manitoba and the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. So he had to step out. I'm in here, winding down the show. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers did practice today. Head of the home opener on Thursday. Have to be feeling pretty good about starting out 1-0 with the comeback win last Friday. Sergio Castillo, the last-second field goal. One thing that stood out to me, Trey Vavel, last season, Rookie of the Year, most outstanding special teams player. What would he do for an encore? And by all accounts, he looked pretty good, helping the Bombers get good field position, had some extended runs. Mike O'Shea was asked yesterday if it's possible that Trey Vavel has even improved on last season.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get wrapped up in the numbers. Trey's, you see him after practice today, what he's working on. He's out there doing extra stuff, specific for the return game that, the good returners do. And he's doing it in his second year. He's not, he's not satisfied. And I think that's going to lead him to good places.
He says he's always looking for the perfect game, of course.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Nobody finds it.
Yeah. He was lamenting that this is the last season of missed field goal returns. You really can't believe that's being changed. It's such a unique thing. Where does that sit with you? How are you looking at that?
Well, we don't have to worry about it this year.
Yeah.
So let's score.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, have some fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul Friesen mentioning Trey Vavel lamenting moving the goalpost for the field goals. Not going to see too many missed field goal returns, in the future because they're at the back. We did post on the Winnipeg Sports Talk Instagram yesterday Hustler's conversation with the CFL commissioner that took place last week, and I had a chuckle when I got the notification that Trey Vavel commented on the Winnipeg Sports Talk Instagram post saying, tell him, keep the field goal at the front of the end zone. And that one got 37 likes on the 17,000 views of that clip. So looking forward to seeing how Trey Vavel evolves as a player during this season. One player really impressed last game in Calgary, Willie Jefferson. Do we have a bit of a match here with him and Jake Serezna attacking the quarterbacks? Taylor Allen asked Mike O'Shea yesterday about Willie Jefferson's ability to bat down passes. He's among the best, ever in the CFL at that.
Yeah, it's really a skill, and he's honed it. He's honed that craft. Great vision, 10-foot wingspan. I don't know what his wingspan would be, but it's large. Understanding the quarterback's eyes and his movement and the timing, if he's not getting home on the rush, then he's got another weapon that's, the best ever from his position.
What's it been like to coach Willie all these years?
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time coaching him. He's pretty polished and good to be around. Once again, I very fortunate in that regard. I get to sit back and watch him work.
How does Willie and Jake Serezna complement each other, do you think?
Well, those are, as you saw, those are two guys you have to account for in your protections. So, yeah, it's a nice addition because it'll help them both out. It'll help everybody out, really. They're just so talented, both of them, and you add in Willie's
sort of game-changing playmaking ability and Jake's relentlessness, and that kind of combination together. And if they take a bit of that from each other, if Willie, through osmosis, that relentlessness comes out, and Jake, you saw him make 3 sacks. I mean, those are big plays, right? But yeah, I think they can feed off each other, and I think they can have a lot of fun together.
Certainly a good-looking 1-2 there on the D-line. As I said yesterday, it reminds me of when you had Jefferson and Jeffcoat in those Grey Cup years. We'll see what they do for an encore on Thursday against Bo Levi Mitchell. Mike O'Shea was asked, it was by Darrin Bauming about, there's plays by the D-line that, you got a sack. That's like 3 sacks. That's 3 plays for an entire game. But there's plays by the D-line that really don't show up on the score sheet.
Yeah, I think at a very young age, I was told that, in terms of pass rush, close matters, close counts. So the closer you are to the quarterback, the more uncomfortable he feels, the more he moves his feet, the less accurate he's going to be. So I do think that if we have a game where there's no sacks, but the quarterback's completion percentage is down, they have something to do with it. I think I know JY runs a very complementary defensive system where the back end and the front end, what each other does really helps the other group, So if you watch that film again, sometimes the coverage was so good that the pass rush could get home on a secondary movement, right? And then other times the pass rush is so quick that it can help the coverage if it's a little bit off, right? So they do a great job of complementing each other.
It seems surprising, but I've had some tell me that a pass knockdown at the line of scrimmage can be as effective as a sack as far as the getting into the psyche of an offense or a quarterback.
Yeah, I think I've said the same thing. It's not a completion, right? So if it gets them off the field, makes them punt, those are big plays. Everybody would celebrate a knockdown by a DB 20 yards downfield, so it just happens a lot quicker with Willie.
I like that comment from Mike O'Shea. It's like a knockdown from a DB. You celebrate that when they break up a pass. Just happens closer to the line of scrimmage. And we've got our eye on this year's CFL with the rule changes, modified rouge, the play clock. How are the Bombers adjusting? Mike O'Shea asked how they did in week 1, adapting to those new changes.
Yeah, I think we were pretty good. Yeah, I thought Mike Miller has the return game, figured out in terms of what we're doing when, and we have great communication, and Trey is a sponge when it comes to, learning new things and wanting to do it right. So I thought we were pretty good in that regard. Actually, really good. Yeah, I thought we did well. Clock was fine. I don't think we ran into any problems, right? We had one time count. Yeah, that would be more on me, in terms of paying attention, making sure I get on the cans and alert them to that. But I think for the most part, we were pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like a non-issue for the teams with the play clock. The Rouge is not going to see as many of them, although there were certainly a couple over the weekend. And we'll take a look at the Cool Bet lines, and I'll give my Assiniboia Downs picks coming up next. But first, here's one more from Huss.
Getting into our Breezy Bend golf report, we have the RBC Canadian Open this week. Pat Gregoire will join me tomorrow. We'll dive into our favorite picks and plays for the RBC Canadian Open. But I do want to, while we're talking about Breezy, give a big shout out to Breezy Bend's Braxton Kuntz, who played in yesterday's longest day in golf, the 36-hole U.S. Open qualifier against a ton of players on the PGA Tour. Braxton was phenomenal, finished at 8 under par, missing by just 1 stroke. So a bit of a heartbreaker for the young pro out of Breezy Bend, but big things ahead for Braxton Kuntz. So had to give him a hat tip on this. Of course, Canadian Open week, always a big one for Canadian golf. We'll look forward to catching it. In the meantime, if you want to get out on one of the best golf courses in the city and are thinking about making a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, check out breezybend.ca or give a call to the clubhouse at 895-7205. Speaking of great things to do in the summer like golf, if you are into fishing, you're going to want to check out Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Nothing like a trip to Aikens where you can be on the water after a short flight in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality is even better. Although I did see on the Aikens Instagram feed last night that a young kid, could not have been more than 12 or 13 years old, put together 3 straight Century clubs and multiple master angler walleyes. The fish are biting at Aikens right now. Check out aikenslake.com for more information on availabilities for the rest of the 2026 fishing season. And just as we continue, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Yes, Little Brown Jug, been enjoying a couple of those outside. Did some yard work yesterday. I had to buy a lopper for trimming some of the branches on the trees around my yard. So nothing like LBJ. They got those small cans now. You know, you enjoy that outside with this great weather, although I'm hearing that it's going to rain over the next couple of days. Hopefully it's okay for the Bombers home opener on Thursday, and we'll just check out the cool bet lines. The Bombers, they were 3.5 yesterday, still at 3.5 point favorites over Hamilton, who lost their first game of the year last Thursday against the Montreal Alouettes. That was a heartbreaker for them in overtime. Montreal at home against Toronto on Friday Night Football. Big 6.5 point favorites. And Saskatchewan, the reigning Grey Cup champions, they kick off their season on Saturday Night Football. Still on TSN. It's on DAZN, known as spelled DAZN, next year. That would be Saturday, 6 p.m. But this year, still on TSN. They're 2.5 point favorites. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers started the season as plus 600 Grey Cup favorites. That number now plus 575 after the 1-0 start. You can look at the Stanley Cup Final tonight. We mentioned Carolina, still favorite, minus 112, pretty close to a pick'em. And if you like Carolina to win the series, plus 152, maybe some value there. And just for tonight's game, if you want a goal scorer, I mean, Nikolai Ehlers was pretty quiet last game, plus 215. Seth Jarvis, Svechnikov, plus 200. How about Taylor Hall, plus 295? Could he be the Conn Smythe winner if Carolina were to win? Jackson Blake, that line's been pretty good. He's plus 305. Although they did switch, you know, they put Ehlers, Stahl, and Jarvis last game, but that Hall, Blake, Stankoven line, that's been together. On the Vegas side, Brett Howden's on fire, plus 260. How about overtime winner Shea Theodore, plus 500. Mitch Marner, the favorite there. And I don't know why, but we keep talking about the Conn Smythe. I think the Conn Smythe is a great trophy because it is, you know, the whole playoffs. It's not just one series. It's also a very cool trophy, one of my favorite ones with the Maple Leaf. And Mitch Marner is the favorite right now at minus 263. And they had, Coolbet does have Taylor Hall plus 525. I do wonder, you know, if you have some close games, no one stands out if Mitch Marner could win it in a losing effort if this went, it would have to go 6 for Carolina to win minimum. At this point, Ehlers long shot plus 3,500. And Brett Howden plus 7,000. So Mitch Marner is going to be the guy, according to the odds makers, if Vegas wins the Cup, to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. And other odds tonight, RBC Canadian Open. That's this weekend. Hustler and Pat, will have more on that at the end of the show tomorrow. Plus 1,200 for Tommy Fleetwood. He's the big favorite there. As we wind down the show, live racing back tonight at Assiniboia Downs. We had such an incredible time last Wednesday, taking out some winners, hitting up the winner circle and the buffet. So shout out to Assiniboia Downs. And I've got my picks in for tonight. I hit some big winners last week. It was a fun one for me getting back in there in my duel at the Downs against Hustler. I'm on race 3, 4, 5, and 6. Race 3, I've got a 2-4 trifecta. Promise code, Shabam, Oregon County. 2 of those horses owned by Henry Witt. Race 4, I'm on a winner, Paco's Pico. That's 3rd on the program selections. That's 4-1. Race 5, who do I have? Horse 5 to win, Mystic Song. It's a bit of a longer shot there. And on race 6, I got an exacta box, 8-9. Bandera, Azteca, and Mr. Dazzle. Those are the program selections. So Assiniboia Downs live racing. Check them out on YouTube if you want to follow along there. I guess that's it for me here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're going to a big video shoot with Travel Manitoba and the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. It's been such a fun show. Today's show, to the sponsors, wouldn't be here doing it without these guys supporting us. Tri-Hospital, Dream Lottery, Clean Line, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, St. Vital Dental, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Travel Manitoba, Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Little Brown Jug, and Cool Bet. And of course, shout out to our guests for today, Matthew Iwanyk, Edmonton Sports Talk, ton of topics to get to there, and Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. We've got a great show coming up tomorrow. Stephen Ellis with Daily Faceoff. They was just at the draft combine. We'll be looking ahead to this year's NHL draft. A lot of recap of Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final and plenty of NHL offseason discussion. Thank you to everyone who's come out today and said hi in the chat. Please make sure hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Also, check us out on other social medias as well at Sports Talk WPG. Going to time to do a raid. I'll send everyone over to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers channel. So thanks everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.